How's it going, Jets fans? My name is Alex with my co-host Ryan Moran, and today we want to take a look at some comments from Gerald McCoy, former NFL great, kind of doing his thing in the media space now, and he had a pretty interesting hot take about the Jets. You guys will probably be very excited about it. Speaking about how he thinks the Jets are going to win 10 games this year and actually winning more games than the Miami Dolphins. So we kind of want to discuss his comments, if we agree with them, if we disagree with them, kind of want to be a little objective here. But at the same time, why he has so many optimistic viewpoints about this Jets team. And, we've been talking about them the past couple of weeks and how they're developing, how they're going, ranging from Zach Wilson to the defense, the new rookies and young faces who are going to make an impact on this squad moving forward. But there is a lot of reason for optimism and excitement. But Gerald McCoy definitely seems to be higher than the Jets on pretty much every other NFL analyst who thinks. Some think that Robert Saleh is the worst head coach in football. Some think that their team is not ready to make a push for the playoffs. He does. And it's definitely interesting, Ryan. Before we dive into his comments and what our thoughts are, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, Alex. Some exciting comments and predictions here from Gerald McCoy, I think, for all Jets fans. And, you're just hopeful at this time of the year. I think as much as anything, there's unknowns entering every NFL season. Just look at the Bengals last year. Teams can, really just come from out of nowhere and put things together. And the Jets have put that expectation out there from Joe Douglas to Robert Saleh on down that, they expect to be playing competitive football in December this year. And I mean, if that's the case, I think Gerald McCoy's expectation is not too far-fetched necessarily. And, I'm hopeful, like you said, all of the new additions that the Jets made, between free agency, the draft, and knowing that it's year two of Saleh, Zach, LaFleur, the whole draft class from last year, as well as some of the free agent additions, getting healthy Carl Lawson and Corey Davis, I think that there is reason for optimism with the Jets. And, as long as they're in the mix, late November, early December, I think, the prediction's really not as crazy as I guess you want to make it out to be.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Jets have a couple of weaknesses, a couple of undetermined factors ranging from the quarterback position. And we discussed that yesterday, where Zach Wilson needs to improve. One of the things that I think his biggest weakness was last year was simply just throwing the ball accurately on short passes. Like, he ranked in the bottom of starting NFL quarterbacks. He ranked in last place among quarterbacks throwing behind the line of scrimmage in completion percentage. He was about 78%. The average is about 87, 89%. So he needs to get better in that area. That really just ranges from him getting the ball out to, swinging it out, not sidearming it, putting his weight behind it, being accurate and intentional with his passes. I think that just comes with experience and learning about how to adjust his game to the NFL level. So I'm not too concerned about that statistic, but, Gerald McCoy really harps on a couple things, and he really says he thinks Zach Wilson's going to take that developmental step forward. We loved him at BYU, right? He was one of the best quarterback prospects when it comes to putting a ball on a dime downfield and making plays happen on the go, on the run. He's amazing throwing on the run. He's super, super natural the way he throws the ball, flick of the wrist. So much power generated from absolutely really simplistic mechanics. And that's exciting. You know what I mean? Like, he has the capabilities to throw the ball like Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't have that power behind it, but he has the arm angles. He has that flow, that the simplicity of his game makes him so lethal. He's like Aaron, the best way to say it actually isn't Patrick Mahomes. His what I would compare him to is like his play style is like Aaron Rodgers. The way that he's able to get out of the pocket, make plays on the move, do things on a whim, and just find playmakers open when the play is already broken down. Is he Aaron Rodgers? Not even close. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying his play style mimics it at a much lower level at this point in time. But, there is a lot of time for him to develop and grow. Of course, Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre for like 3 seasons. So Zach Wilson has a lot of more, effort and time that needs to go into this process before he can reach that level. Now, Gerald McCoy seems to think that he's going to take that monster step forward, especially with all the new playmakers in Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Michael Carter, Breece Hall, Tyler Conklin, Jeremy Ruckert, CJ Uzuma, Corey Davis, ton of guys. They have a never-ending list of guys who can make plays in the receiving game. And the running game is going to help them tremendously as well. The rebuilt offensive line, year 2, with some more chemistry. They got Laken Tomlinson, Elijah Vera Tucker in year 2, Mekhi Becton coming back from injury. There's a lot of pieces coming together right now that suggests that Gerald McCoy has a valid argument that they could win 10 games. But my major concern with it is that I think that the division is still too tough. I still think that Miami is too tough right now because they just added Tyreek Hill. And, Tua's a pretty accurate quarterback. He's not the best quarterback. He has a long way to go, but he's still a very accurate quarterback in the short to intermediate ranges of the field. And Tyreek Hill, all you have to do is get decent blocking out in front of him and let him work. Now, their offensive line is still a little bit questionable. We'll see how they come together. I think Miami and Buffalo is going to be the number 1 seed. I think that Miami is going to be fighting for that number 2 seed. And the Patriots are in this kind of like weird realm of they could be okay and they could kind of regress because Mac Jones, rookie season, if teams start to figure him out, maybe he regresses a little bit, that sophomore slump. What are you thinking about this division and how the Jets fare against some of these teams matching up maybe against Miami to start?
For sure. So I think you said it with the Bills. I mean, they just seem destined, like it's their time. Josh Allen's in his prime and his cap hit really hasn't even fully kicked in yet. So I think this is kind of their year, and I think people know that. I will say, though, that, week 18 game, I mean, the Jets were pretty competitive with a really, limited team that was out there in that final game of the season, giving them a run there in the fourth quarter. And you saw what they went on to do to the Patriots, at home that next week, beat them by 30 points. So I think in that regard, the Jets can at least be competitive with the Bills. But I still expect the Bills to be a 12, 13-win team. The Dolphins, I think, it's fair competition for the Jets. You said Tyreek Hill, obviously Teron Armstead, some of the players they've brought in, obviously their roster, I think, looks good on paper. It's just, it comes down to Tua, like you said. And, if he can really take that step and be, that top 5 pick he was and the prospect he was at Alabama, I think that is a, matchup for the Jets so that they should once again be competitive in and probably even win a game, honestly. And then with the Patriots, I agree. I feel like a regression is fair to expect. I think they did surpass expectations last year and did an impressive job with Mac Jones as a rookie and, all the free agents that they brought in. Although I feel like some of them were, overspent. I think Matt Judon and Hunter Henry were really 2 great additions. I will say with the Patriots regression, I would, sure, I don't think Mac Jones will be as good as he was last year, but I actually think it has more to do with, the loss of Josh McDaniels, having no idea who their offensive coordinator is. And, I think that they just lost talent. You look at J.C. Jackson, you look at Shaq Mason, their draft, I think, was, while they got good prospects, I think the value, was just a bit shocking in how early they maybe picked some of the guys that they did, in the first couple of rounds. So, after the Bills, I think that the Jets should once again, be competitive here. The roster is much improved to, go out there and be respectable and compete with teams. And, you got to start in your own division if you want to turn it around. So,
yeah, I mean, Miami, I'm just looking at their roster right now, and they actually have a pretty damn good squad, to be honest. Their offense is composed of some pretty decent playmakers. I mean, they got Teddy, Bridgewater, Tua, pretty decent quarterback tandem. None of them are crazy good, but they can get the job done, especially if they have the playmakers around them. Running back, they got Chase Edmonds, Myles Gaskin, Sony Michel. They added Raheem Mostert. I mean, that's some 4 pretty experienced players right there. So I think that those guys will serve them well. At wide receiver, they got obviously Tyreek Hill. They got Jalen Waddle, Preston Williams, Cedric Wilson coming over from the Dallas. So also some decent guys. Mike Gesicki's a problem at tight end. I had him on my fantasy team. He actually performed pretty well during the first half of the season. They got Connor Williams at guard now. They signed him. Like you said, Teron Armstead. They got Austin Jackson, who I don't really like that much. Greg Little. Decent guys on the offensive line. Some standout positions. Others that probably going to need to compete. Liam Eichenberg, pretty solid guy. He's a rookie out of Notre Dame. So I'm curious to see what he can do there. Defensively, Emmanuel Ogbah, Adam Butler, they have some really good players here. Jerome Baker. Then you have Jalen Phillips, second year. I like him a lot. Or rather, Liam Eichenberg will be a sophomore this upcoming season on the offensive line at guard. Then you got Xavier Howard and Byron Jones as your corners. I mean, across the board, they have a pretty solid. They have Quincy Wilson. Wasn't he a Jet at some point in time?
They've got Javon Holland in the secondary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Javon Holland. I mean, they got a sick Eric Rowe. They have a pretty damn good group of guys here, and I think that they're going to be a pretty tough team to beat. I think the Jets are going to need to be just stout offensively. It really ultimately comes down to Zach Wilson at the end of the day. It always has and always will be about Zach Wilson. I think the defense needs to step up, especially Robert Saleh, his defensive roots. Sauce has got to have a solid rookie season. DJ Reed's got to make an impact at day one. CJ Mosley, obviously, Quinn Williams. Carl Lawson's got to step up and have a big year. Like, there's a lot of guys on this team that are very talented. The question is, like, a lot of them are still either unproven or coming off injury. So it is a little bit concerning. To think that they could win 10 games, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that my ceiling for the Jets is 8 games. That's my absolute best ceiling for the Jets right now. But that's not bad. Like 8 games in the second year of your rebuild, and then, catapulting that into maybe like 10 to 11 wins next year and then a playoff appearance. That's how rebuilds are supposed to go. Not many teams do go from nothing, rookie quarterback, absolutely garbage, to playoffs in 1 year. There's not many squads that do that. And if they do that, there's usually a monstrous regression in year 3 because like there's just the expectations are blown out of the water, and a lot of them are like riding like the tail end of like stars' careers, and then just kind of the contracts get mixed up. So that 3-year rebuilds where like you're looking at playoffs in the 3rd season, I think is a more realistic perspective. How do you think the Jets season kind of caps out?
I think like you said there with the realistic expectation being about 8 wins, I think is probably something fair. Like I said earlier with the Bengals, you think back to Sean McVay's first year with the Rams. I mean, some of those things can speed up and really come from out of nowhere, but a lot of times it's easier said than done. While the Jets are much improved, I still think that the run defense is going to have to prove itself. This offense just gelling and continuing to grow and progress. And, year 2 of Michael LaFleur's offense, is definitely going to have to continue to, prove itself over time. And, I think as long as they are, living up to that expectation of being competitive in December, I think that's as much as anything what Jet fans are looking for, just a competitive team that, moving forward, you can really feel good about. And look, if they can win 10 games and make the playoffs, it would be amazing. I think everyone would be pumped, only in year 2 here of Saleh, LaFleur, Zach, and having a really young team, the youngest in the NFL a year ago. I think that's that would really surpass expectations. And, ultimately to get to 7 or 8, I think, would definitely be a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. So I think overall we can kind of agree that Gerald McCoy's prediction is a little bit overblown. I think it's a little bit too high, but 8 wins to me would be a huge step forward for the Jets. I mean, when's the last time they won 8 games? It's been a while. So I think progressively, like in terms of development, growth, progress for all of these players and the development of the rookies, really, because those guys are going to be the ones that need to take steps forward in year 2. And then Zach Wilson will be in year 3. That's where you really expect your rookie quarterback to really hit his stride. That's like when you look at Josh Allen, these guys, that's really where they like really came together and like kind of realized their potential and started to hit that peak of ceiling. Those are our thoughts. I'd love to hear your opinions below in the YouTube comments, as always. If you agree with Gerald McCoy, what you think the ceiling is for this Jets team this year and what you think is realistic. I know we all want to be very optimistic at this point in time, and I think that 8 wins is a good, fair number. But, if you think there's going to be more, I'd love to hear your reasoning, as always. Make sure to say hi in the comments. We love to communicate and have a good conversation down there and build this community, my friends. So much appreciated, as always. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Jets podcast.